experience with them. The emerald ash borer started in the Detroit area. A very interesting story that, I guess, good to be politically aware of how it got here. Basically, we think it came in wood packing material. And you know how much international commerce there is, right? Wood packing material is very common. I was actually giving a talk in Niagara County a couple of years ago, and so it got started in the Detroit area, and I mentioned that it probably got started in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, we're not sure. And afterwards a fellow comes up to me and sort of meekly says, "Well, I think I brought it in." And I said, "Oh, really? Tell me the story." And he said, "Well, I'm a retired automotive engineer, worked all my life in Detroit, and you're right. The late 80s, early 90s is when we started bringing in tons of parts from China. Auto parts are heavy, and they come in wood packing crates." The story about it in China is interesting. It's like you're always thinking about, okay, native bugs are in control, right? And in China, the emerald ash borer is in control. They have resistance by the host trees, and they have natural enemies. Two things we don't have here in America. Well, the Chinese species aren't really that, beautiful stately tree that we have here with our ash trees. And so they took our ash trees and planted them in China for street trees. And that's when the emerald ash borer decided it liked them and killed them. And waste not, want not. What do you do with the lumber? You make packing crates and ship parts over to America. I think that's a scenario that makes a lot of sense to me. So, I guess the lesson from that is that we're at the beginning of this assault on our ecosystems, and that we really have to be cognizant of the dangers that are out there, and the fact that they'll continue as long as we continue to buy cheap goods from overseas. And I don't see that stopping anytime. What it did do, though, was wake us up as a profession as to what's out there. We didn't expect to see anything like the emerald ash borer as an aggressive forest pest. There's hundreds of species in the same genus, and here in North America, they don't cause problems. In fact, they actually are good in the ecosystem because they kill trees, but they kill trees that I think are meant to come out. They're weak, and you don't want the weak individuals breeding in a population. So they actually perform a very important ecosystem service in the native situation. But then you get this wacko bug come in. There's no resistance, no natural enemies. It's had its way. I have hope, though, and it involves a 50-year or 100-year plan. We have to be smart. And I think I've been working with these bugs now for, a while, and it's been pretty depressing. You go to areas in the Midwest, as you very well know, you see all the dead ash trees. I mean, here in New York State, we have more ash trees than any other state in the nation. Some of the counties have up to 28% of their trees there's ash. Here in the southern tier, ash are everywhere, and unfortunately, they especially like to come into areas of disturbed habitats. They seed in very readily, and those are usually in areas of human infrastructure, around houses, power lines, roads. And so we have so much rural forest land here, and people build their homes in the forest, that the human impact of these trees dying is going to be huge. And quite frankly, I don't think there are enough arborists here in Ithaca to take care of the problem. When it hits there, it's going to hit hard and strong. We'll probably have, I'm just guessing wildly, maybe 10 years to deal with it. And then all the ash will be gone, and that's it. Unless you protect your ash with insecticides, which are very effective. I have a 3-point plan for saving ash. And that involves, number one, preserving the genome. Preserve the genome by collecting seeds and by preserving magnificent individuals across the landscape so that you have seed available once this thing moves through. Number two, work on breeding resistance in our native species, and the Forest Service is working on that right now very hard, and I hope they have great success. They have great tools. And number three is to get biological controls in place. And they're working on that right now. It's a thankless task because there's so many of those emerald ash borer out there, and they're moving so quickly. You're not going to really see the impact of the biological controls until the emerald ash borer has gone through and you have very few trees out there, and then they might become effective. But without the biological controls, the long-term possibility of bringing ash back onto the landscape is a non-starter. We have to have resistance, biological control, genetic diversity to maybe after the emerald ash borer has moved through, bring ash back in the landscape. There is hope, and I think you have to focus on the hope so that you know where to go, to put your energy. If you just throw up your arms and say, all's lost, why bother? You're going to lose them all. My objective is to bring ash back on the landscape in its full glory as it was in the past. I'll probably be dead by then, but who cares? Got to start somewhere.